You'll see a cloth in his hand. The district attorney wants you to believe that cloth was used to try and gag Mr. Brooks, but that's simply not true, and it's illogical. Look at the video. You'll see Farina wiping. He's performing a standard, lawful, and necessary part of the search process. Suddenly, Mr. Brooks bites down, hard, on Officer Farina's finger. He didn't hurt his finger by punching him, as Sergeant Trombley tried to imply. He even heard somebody say, "Got bit." And in that instant, Farina reacts.
Hello, critical thinkers. Hope all is well. Please like the video, share the video, comment below on the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please also click on the bell notification icon and select all so that you will be notified when I go live.
In the body, even in the mouth. They also told you how important it is to check for hidden weapons, drugs, or items that could be swallowed or used against officers. That's the environment these men work in every day. And that's when Officer Farina steps in. He moves in to check Mr. Brooks' mouth. Not to hurt him, but to make sure there's no hidden contraband or obstruction, and possibly to wipe away blood or pepper spray. You'll see a cloth in his hand. The district attorney wants you to believe that cloth was used to try and gag Mr. Brooks, but that's simply not true, and it's illogical. Look at the video. You'll see Farina wiping. He's performing a standard, lawful, and necessary part of the search process. Suddenly, Mr. Brooks bites down, hard, on Officer Farina's finger. He didn't hurt his finger by punching him, as Sergeant Trombley tried to imply. He even heard somebody say, "Got bit." And in that instant, Farina reacts. Officer Kessler describes those punches, once in the face and several others striking Mr. Brooks viciously in the throat. Violent, forceful, uncontrolled punches that nobody in that room knew were coming and impossible to stop. As quickly as it happened, it ended. It's not policy. It is excessive. It's a spontaneous reaction to sudden pain and frustration. Put in context, being bitten or exposed to blood in a state prison isn't the same as it would be out here. Officers know what that can mean, and it happens all the time. Exposure to hepatitis, HIV, AIDS, or other life-changing infections is always a concern. They know the long, uncertain process that follows: testing, medication, and the waiting. That's the kind of panic that drives a reaction like this. Now, where's Officer Kingsley during all this? Right next to Officer Farina, steadying Mr. Brooks' neck and head so the search can be completed. He's not choking him. He has his fists on both sides of the head under his jaw. His fingers are not wrapped around his neck. He's not restraining him to cause pain or obstruct his airway. He's doing what officers are trained to do: control movement in close quarters, try to steady the head and open the mouth. And when Officer Farina starts throwing those punches, Kingsley releases. He shifts, adjusts, and tries to manage the chaos. At no point does he strike Mr. Brooks. He doesn't punch, he doesn't kick, he doesn't act out of anger. Nothing shows David Kingsley is taking any pleasure in what's happening. He's calm, focused, doing his job in the middle of chaos he didn't create. That's not depraved indifference. That's not malice. That's a correctional officer trying to do his job in an impossible place. After Officer Farina punches, the room is tense, but not loud. Even though there's no audio on the video, you can see that most of the officers are not shouting or even speaking. They're moving with purpose. It's not a frenzy. They're trying to regain order and get Mr. Brooks into position because he keeps sliding down the gurney. Multiple officers try to assist, to search, examine, and photographs so photographs can continue. There is no ill intent, as suggested. It's in that moment that David Kingsley does what you'll see on the video. He reaches down, takes hold of Mr. Brooks, and lifts him up in a seated position on the end of the gurney. In slow motion, or when it's paused at just the right time, it looks harsh, kind of like the gagging accusation. It is simply not accurate or true. You need to remember, this took place in a matter of seconds. A screenshot taken in a moment of time does not show intent or indifference to life. This isn't a deliberate hold or a violent act, like we learned when Walrath was in the vestibule. It's a reflexive, reactionary movement, an instinct to get Mr. Brooks upright and steady. David Kingsley isn't striking him, he isn't yelling or showing aggression. He's doing what he's trained to do, trying to keep control of the situation and trying to position Mr. Brooks for the next step in the process. The prosecution wants you to see depravity in those few seconds. But depraved indifference means something else entirely. It means utter disregard for human life, cruelty for its own sake. And that's not what this is. This is a split-second human reaction in a room full of correction officers trying to do their job. And then what happens? Moments later, you see Mr. Brooks sitting upright at the end of the gurney, speaking with Sergeant Trombley. As Trombley stated, Mr. Brooks was mumbling, not making sense. The officers have stepped back. The tension has calmed. The use of force is over. Sergeant Trombley has control of the room. He's getting the paperwork ready, the questionnaire, the photo sheets. The process can move forward, and once again, the officers believe the incident is over. This was an opportunity for Sergeant Trombley to regain the control he claimed to have lost. A sergeant with years of experience being the boss. A sergeant who we can assume was well respected by other sergeants and correctional officers. Somebody who was known to take control and give orders, as he did after this incident. So what does Sergeant Trombley do? He orders Officer Kingsley and Anzalone to bring Mr. Brooks to the mat, to the corner. And after this order, Trombley somehow loses control and can't give any more orders. His mouth, for some reason, no longer works. He just blames Sergeant Mashaw. And when Mr. Brooks is brought to that corner, Kingsley and Anzalone take their position as they are trained to do. What you're seeing isn't violence by David Kingsley. It's procedure. It's the officer doing exactly what they've been taught, step by step, to maintain safety for everyone in that room. Bring him to the corner, get the cuffs off, secure his arms, get hands high on the wall. Another officer will follow. Sergeant Trombley fails to give an order for somebody to assist. The third officer, who is responsible to place themselves behind the incarcerated individual to help assist in removing shackles and clothing. At this time, it's important to separate what each officer does. Officer Anzalone and Officer Kingsley are not acting the same way or with the same intent. And that's based on their prior behavior. And you can see the difference clearly on the video. David Kingsley isn't lifting, yanking, or striking. He's beside Mr. Brooks, keeping control of the left side. Maintaining position, trying to keep his hands high on the wall, putting his leg underneath Mr. Brooks to support his weight, as Officer Kessler testified. That's an officer trying to prevent an individual from collapsing, trying to keep the procedure controlled. Two officers trained to keep an individual upright and against the wall looking straight, keeping an eye on his hands and body while other officers handle the strip search. Remember what Officer Kessler said about that procedure. The officers positioned in those corners don't have the luxury of turning around to see what's happening. They can't anticipate what might come next. Their entire focus is on the individual, on those hands, that stance and balance. That's why the sergeant plays such a critical role. The sergeant is the one who's supposed to see the whole picture, to know what's happening in every corner of that room, and to give directions when it's needed. That's how these movements are meant to function. Clear chain of command, clear control, so things like this don't happen. Let's remember what Sergeant Trombley stated to you, that he never directed anybody to assist. That when he saw Mr. Brooks in distress, he did nothing. These words came out of his mouth. It's not my job to remove shackles. Yet, he sat there and tried to convince you that he is sorry for what he did, while trying to blame everybody else. Remember, Sergeant Trombley orchestrated everything after Mr. Brooks left the facility. He crafted all the reports, even going as far as writing Mr. Kingsley's and ordering him to sign it. Then he says, I let him read it. Yet he claims he did not have control. Officer Kingsley is a line officer with the least amount of seniority in that room. All you have to do is count the bars, stripes on all the other officers' arms. Officer Kessler told you at first he thought Mr. Brooks was just being non-compliant, maybe faking it when he went up in the corner, maybe trying to make the process harder. But then something changed. After a couple minutes, Officer Kessler realized this wasn't acting. Mr. Brooks wasn't resisting. He now believed he was in distress. Something was wrong. So he stepped in without being ordered to. He became the third man, but not to control, to help. He urgently tried to remove the leg irons and the shackles without being ordered, because it's clear to him that Mr. Brooks needed immediate medical attention. And once he freed the restraints, the officers placed him back on the gurney to begin life-saving efforts. And what you do see during these moments on the video, you see Officer Kingsley with one hand on Mr. Brooks' left wrist and Officer Galloper on the right. They're not striking, not choking, not holding him down to harm him. They're holding those wrists because they don't know what's happening. And policy requires control of the inmate's hands whenever there is uncertainty about an inmate's condition. They could have thought Mr. Brooks might be overdosing. That maybe before transfer he had swallowed drugs or a balloon ruptured. That's why the first step is to administer Narcan. Narcan is designed to reverse an overdose, and it can cause an immediate violent reaction if the person suddenly regains consciousness. That's why those wrist holds are used, not to punish, but to protect everybody in the room. And as the medical examiner testified, there were no external injuries that would have informed the officers what was actually wrong with Mr. Brooks. And it's critically important. There was nothing they could see that revealed the internal trauma. So they reacted to what they thought they were seeing, a possible overdose, a medical crisis, and did exactly what they were trained to do. What happens next is the best evidence of their intent. Because once it became clear that Mr. Brooks was in distress, these officers, including David Kingsley, did not stand back. They lined up to provide CPR. They worked to save him. They performed life-saving measures for minutes on end. This was not some sort of ruse to cover up these actions. And as the testimony showed, Kingsley was the first one in line to provide CPR. You heard a lot about the body cameras in this trial. The district attorney wants you to believe that these officers, including David Kingsley, intentionally didn't turn them on because they wanted to hide what they were doing. But the evidence you actually heard tells a different story. The entire facility rarely used them. Not just these officers on this particular night. Specific to David Kingsley, however, Investigator Cornish testified that the transportation officers are required to pick up their cameras from the camera room right before taking somebody out of the facility, and then return them to their docking station immediately when they get back from the transport. That's the policy. They're not regularly issued an alternate camera when they come back. And Investigator Massot confirmed that. He told you that no alternate camera was ever provided to Kingsley after he returned from transport that day. That's not concealment or being part of some conspiracy. That's procedure. Now, during the medical response, Sergeant Trombley gave an order. He directed the officers to activate their body cameras, and they did. Once that happened, those cameras captured not only the video, but also the audio of what took place next. And that's how you could know what those moments really looked and sounded like. Investigator Massot told you that there was additional body camera footage recorded after that order. Footage that showed the medical response, the CPR, the Narcan, and the efforts to save Mr. Brooks' life. It may have shown officers doing everything they could to help, including David Kingsley, who was the first to perform CPR, which you heard directly from Sergeant Trombley. This action destroys the theory of depraved indifference. Those few minutes reveal the truth, that when the officers realized something was wrong, when they understood that Mr. Brooks was in distress, they acted immediately. They did not prevent medical assistance. They worked with urgency to save a man's life. That's not depraved. That's not indifference. That's not murder in the second degree. And that is the heart of this case. And when you strip away the speculation, the slow motion replays, the freeze frames that extend time, and the labels that the prosecution wants you to adopt, what you're left with is this. David Kingsley never struck Mr. Brooks. He never kicked him. He never set out to hurt him. He followed his training, trusted his fellow officers, and responded when chaos erupted around him. You did not conspire. He was not an accomplice to others' unforeseen actions. When it mattered most, when Mr. Brooks was in distress, he tried to save him. The medical examiner couldn't say that anything David Kingsley, the medical examiner couldn't say that anything David Kingsley did caused or contributed to Mr. Brooks' death. All she could do was describe his injuries from multiple incidents, including Mohawk, and explain toxicology results that indicated the presence of K2, a drug that can cause many different behaviors and health issues. That alone creates reasonable doubt. And as Officer Kessler said again and again, after each incident, I thought it was over. After the vestibule, after the sally port, after the pepper spray, and after Officer Farina's punches, I thought it was over. Each moment was its own. Separate, distinct, and unplanned. That does not create a conspiracy, a welcoming committee, or an accomplice. And remember this, just because correctional officers wear the same uniform doesn't mean they're part of the same gang. It doesn't mean they have the same motivations, the same knowledge, or the same intent. Just because one officer saw or witnessed something, it does not travel to officers who are in the hallway or in a different room. The acts of some, even those that look violent on video, do not make everyone in that room equally culpable or prove that they were acting together with the same purpose. The law demands that you judge each man individually. And when you do that, you'll see David Kingsley for who he is, a correctional officer who responded to chaos, followed orders, and tried to save a life. Now, the second charge in this case, manslaughter in the first degree, asks whether David Kingsley intended to cause serious physical injury and in doing so cause the death of Mr. Brooks. But nothing in this record, not one word, not one frame of video, not one piece of testimony shows that intent. There is no evidence that he wanted to hurt anyone. There is no evidence that he set out to cause serious injury. There is no evidence that he caused injury. From start to finish, his actions show only an intent to control and to stabilize. And that's not intent. That's training, duty, and decisions being made under immense pressure. And you may believe, as human beings, that mistakes were made that day. And you may wish something had been done differently. But these feelings don't make a crime. Under the law, David Kingsley is not guilty of murder in the second degree, nor is he guilty of manslaughter in the first degree. Maybe you think he could have done more, moved faster, or spoken up sooner, but the law doesn't punish imperfection. It punishes intent and indifference, and those simply are not present here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nebush. Mr. Rivera.
I'll just take a moment to set up a meeting.
Yes, sir.
Over here.
If you found value in this video, please like the video, comment below. Don't forget to share the video. And if you feel that I've earned it, please subscribe to the channel. My goal is to give you honest and direct feedback and go deeper than what the mainstream media is telling you. Take care, God bless, and see you next time.